Welcome back. Today I will be working on video a bit more, maybe some GitHub cleanup, because I do need to clean up this mess that I've made by moving all the files in Word to a different location. I might want to move them back to. Okay, all right. Let's open Caden for video editing. Godot. Working actual code. I guess probably need to do the PowerPoint. Okay. Last we left off was this section where I start talking about a bit more detail. Mm. Now, my first question is this section even necessary? Since I do go over a bit more in detail this entire section. The full 30 seconds? Or nearly 30 seconds? But it feels almost unnecessary. Like, we just turn that on, and then we start from here. Let's see how I feel about this. Okay, so it needs a bit more of a start, but otherwise I think it could just do it. That's terrible. There's screams. Let me grab effects, noise suppression. Putting on everything basically. There's a little bit there left, but doesn't seem that bad. Let me go into the effects menu. I mean, it's only mono anyways. I still hear it. What was the filter I used the last time? Let me just do the -8. I think that's enough. No, that just makes the screaming clearer. V. Just starting. It helps a lot. It's a 60%. Try it. Increase some retroactive grace period as well. Increasingly, that was actually bad. Grace period by 100. Uh, Standard one. Why did my niece have to get through in turn 10? This doesn't seem to have any noise problems. It's this one that does. Does it have a... Mm. Let me cut out this section, which we'll go over in more detail. Yeah. Actually, part of this audio is fine. Wait, how do I transition this? So this is a bit like off space, but it's just there. Yeah. Record some audio for this section is which I need my notes for. Script changes. Okay. First, we need to decide what attack we will use. Then we can start that attack, getting us into our attack system, which has 5 key parts, which we will go into more detail with right now. I don't need to specify the number of key parts, I think. First we need to decide what attack we will use, then we can start that attack, getting us into our attack system, made up of these parts: the attack manager, the attack, the frames, the hit and hurt boxes, and the collision shapes. And get the audio timing correctly. Does that need a +8, I guess? Basically needs a +8. In that case, I want to do the animation as well a little bit differently. So instead of highlighting everything, they just appear. Which I guess isn't exactly as going to be easy to put in. Now I have to do this slideshow from current slide. I have to do what we did last time. I'll also have it ready. Start from current slide. That. Yeah, that's the 5 screenshots that we need. Go into here. Go into the video section. Work in progress videos, attack tree or character creator. Some pictures, screenshots, the most recent 5. Go back to, paste these. Now you go to editing, new folder, add into this, those 5, only. I did not mean to do it that small. Okay, yeah. Mhm. Like we said before, and yeah, that small line. Okay. Like we said before, the attack manager will. I is right. Let me edit the length, please, and thank you. Okay. Save some time. I was muted for some reason. That's interesting. For our attack system, we need to decide what attack we're going to use. Why am I quieter today? Yeah, I'm just quieter for no reason. Like for average audio. Why is the audio so different than yesterday? It's so weird. For our attack system, we need to decide what attack we will use. Is it like it's adjusted on my head slightly, or this is off? I don't know. For our attack system, okay, so that definitely has an effect. For our attack system, for our attack system, this is fine. For our attack system, we first need to see, how's the transition? I think it's fine. It's just like semi glitching out because of how its playback work. If I group them. I might run it through slowly myself. I think that's fine. I don't know. Just this. Okay. Okay. I don't like the arrow. The arrow doesn't feel as good compared to what I did with the other, like the highlighting last time. Delete all of these. And let's do something else here. Could I change, like, ungroup? And it's just the image editing that I want to find something good for. Like transparency, maybe? A highlight box. Hmm, that's style, I guess. Okay. I think it's just under everything. So bring to front. See how that overlaps? No, that's not transparent at all. Edit style. It's not transparent. This, no. Is it seriously just not? Become transparent. Even 100% independent. What the hell? That's insane. Okay. Mm. If I just, for each one, delete all of them except the one we're actually on. Mhm. Is better? I delete the arrows too. Is that better? I'm making significantly non-significant changes. Okay. I just need to move them. Okay. My first concern is already that these are going to be just long. I have to do them one at a time. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, okay. Edit duration. Ripple size. What is a ripple size? I don't. It doesn't. It doesn't seem to do anything. I think this should be 2, 0. I think it's fine now. Eclipse. Okay. Cool. I guess. Next up is the code. Actually, doing the code portion. Why is this question placed here? Hmm. Specifically just this one. Maybe accidentally decided discovery trip. Okay, why did I place this here? Um, hmm, I think these are bad questions, actually, also. Um, because of multi-hit and, like, per pixel thing. It might be bad to do those. Yeah. Mm, okay. I believe I did just start putting some thirds all in at once without animating or doing anything. This one can be its own image. Mm, this one probably is a little bit more like animation stuff for it, so let's do it with the animations, I think. Mm, I think just an arrow here and an arrow here are good for what I want to do. Okay. Mm, maybe a box. Toe up. I was exactly on grid, which is really not right now. Um, yeah, let me change the snapping. It's a bit much right now. I'll highlight this with a line of color white as well. Um, I'll also change the color for this one to be white. Line. White. Add an animation. Add an effect. Just appear at the same time. Okay. Add an animation for this as well. So it should appear first, very first thing. Here's that play. Wait, what? Arrow, box, this box below. Okay, play. Not click, click. Okay, Aaron Q seemed to be like the best, but also it's so not running fast because I'm using so much. I have so many things open at the same time. I've got stream. What does my uh, usage look like? No. Yeah, OBS is 10%. No, running the computer is like 12%, and the cadence like 4% or something. Yeah, it's using auto zero small some amount. Okay, okay. So that's been identified. That's just supposed to replace, I think. So, this is an upgraded version, which is just not right now, because set frame disabled doesn't exist yet. Okay. Since it's like the very next thing, okay, mm, I think, yeah, add a new slide here, and just take this, put it here, get the stuff below. But I never do the ready function, so no. Only after we have the ready function ready. I can just do the ready function, right? Yeah, I could, but I don't do it here. Why? I have it here. I think I just copied it wrong. Yes, ready is not its own thing, so let me grab that. Okay. Reset attack is the thing that doesn't exist. Mm. Now we do the new slide. Now we can take reset attack and this actually. Just stuff on my computer, or is that actually like something that moved around? Or is that reset attack that I'm looking for? Okay, let me check then from here, then copy that to this. Hmm. So, okay, how do we do this code? First, let's define all of our classes: attack manager, attack frame, hitbox, hurtbox. Hurtbox is very small, so we can just finish it right now. We will give it an export to a player, and we'll set its collision shape, collision layer. Right. Next, we can move on to the attack manager. We'll define these variables. We will also define start and continue attack, which might be its own thing. Uh, how do I actually want to? I need to go slow enough, but not too slow. Yeah. So there's no some I'll use later. Uh, right now, starting attack, the current attack. Uh, hmm, how do I want to do these? Okay, in the attack uh, in the attack class, we need to set the attack manager. We know it's always going to be a parent in our node tree, so we'll just do that. We also need to know the frames and what the active frame is. Not ready. Also define the ready function, which just grabs all of the frames uh, below it. And we'll define our reset attack. Right now we can set active frame to 0. Next we can move on to frame. I need duplicate slide. I need one without the arrow or the thing. Name and our ready function, which mm-hmm. Okay. 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 So if I were to go over the frame, actually, I don't want to just go over this. Do I just say what we'll use later and what we'll use now? Right away we can use these things. Then we can just set those values to disabled. We'll also set the visible ones so that when we work with it in the editor, so that the hitboxes don't show up when we are using them. Don't quite it. Right. Since we defined the function set frame disabled, we can go back to attack and update the reset to use it. Cycling through all the frames and resetting them. Lastly, we need to define the hitbox, which we will define a ready function, and I don't. How do I want to talk about this? Oh my gosh, this just feels terrible. Yeah. How did I do it in my input system video? Because this just looks terrible. Let me watch myself. Is that just because it's this view specifically? Or is it just low quality the entire way through? Oh my goodness, why is this so broken? Escape. Full screen like normal, please. Why is it struggling? Okay, so this seems like mostly good. And then that's just blurry and garbage. I show a large block for the input system. I really go variable by variable rather than like all at once. Mm, There's a lot to go over. Yeah, that's just some, okay. I really went a lot more in detail line by line, I think, for a few sections. I think because the input sequence reading was harder to start off with. But this is like an interconnected system, so it's not, that's not the hard part. It's not, because all of these things are just defining small parts slowly. Okay. In our type manager, we can define our variables, as well as our two functions for starting and continuing the attack. Um, then we would also want to run the, we want the code to run automatically, so we would pass continue attack in the physics process. Mhm. Yeah, so we don't get an error. I want to do this. Okay, once we get to the attack, I have everything technically here. So Um, does attack have a reference to this thing? Um, check manager mini. I have it in attack for a reset. It's not used. Mhm. Mm, It's unused in the code. Reset all frames box. This is the only time it's used, so it could be removed from this one. But then I have to find every single other spot where attack is used and has that and fix it as well. Because the hit is also supposed to just not be there. It's decently step by step. Repeat this frame isn't used either for a while. Mhm. Mm. Mhm. Now the repeat this frame export is used in all of these, but it's just used entirely until the very end. You know, I'll keep it in, but like since it's for later, it's used later, but not immediately. The other one was just completely unused. Yeah. Damage value is unused. Mhm. Mm, the damage value is unused. If I replace it with damage, or add a note at the end of the video. Mhm. It's just, you need to try something instead of just staring at it forever. First, we'll define all of our classes. Mm, Did I actually? No, I think it's covered by something else. Alright, great. Let's do this. Current slide. Didn't wait long enough. Hmm. Okay, let's try to do it until that, I think. Alright, escape. It's not a small amount. Okay. Oh my goodness, 2 minutes ago. Okay, 2 minutes ago it counts. Mhm. Uh, uh, okay. Mute. Oh, mm. Let's start off with defining our key components. Our key parts. Collision shape is defined by godot on its own, so we don't need to add it. The first thing we can do is define our classes. One for attack manager, attack, frame, hitbox, and hurtbox. The next thing is okay. Hitbox is a very small script, so we can just fill it out right away, setting its collision shape in the ready function. Hitbox is a very small script, so we can just finish it right away, have an export for the player, and a ready function that sets the collision layer. I set it to 8, which it represents the layer number 4. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. What is that? Healing. Okay. So that should be the first part. I said hitbox both times. Hurtbox. Okay. Hurtbox is a very small script. Okay. Next, let's move on to our attack manager. We can define our important variables. All of these will be used in this video. You may want to add more depending on your case. Do I mention your case? I don't know. Um, like this feeling there's a painful feeling with like the underneath part of my ear um, that is very sensitive, as if it almost has an infection there, because like stretches around the bone and moves down my neck. Is where you feel it, but it's not very fun. 407. That means I've been on for about an hour and a half. Okay, let's continue with this. Next, let's move to our attack manager and define our important functions for that. Our most important variables and functions. They don't have much yet. When we start our attack, we should translate. I don't have one with an arrow pointing at his attack. Okay. Mm, okay. Let me put in the rest of the images that relate to that section too. Mhm. Mhm. Moving on to the attack manager, we can define all of our important variables and a few of our functions. Start attack and continue attack as the main ones. Properties. Do I mention any of the properties? Mm-hmm. Mm, okay. We can then define our physics process function, where we'll be starting and continuing our attacks. Lastly, so this is clear, test attack and this block of code in physics process is only to represent starting an attack, which can be used with any start system. Uh, that's a terrible ending. Mhm. I don't mention that start attack takes in an attack to start. Mm, Start attack, which sets the attack manager knowing, tells everybody that. Mm, Start attack. Alright, I have a script section that I can write things in. Okay. Okay. That's more attack. Okay. For the attack manager, we can find our variables. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right away, we can use is attacking and continue and current attack in our start function. Mm, We do use an actual like script segment. Okay. Lastly, and define the physics process. So we can start the attack when we input something and continue attacking if is underscore attacking. Moving on to the attack manager, we can define our variables right away. Moving on to attack manager, we can define our variables. Right away, we can use isAttacking and currentAttack in our startAttack function, and we can define continueAttack, which we'll fill out later. Lastly, we can define the physics process function, so we can start an attack when we input something, and continueAttack only if we have already started an attack, even isAttacking is true. What one?
Money rolls.
Money rolls.
In a bag? In one with
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have all the rest of
Door knocking. The door knocking has. I'm sure it's in there. Lastly, we can define the physics process function, so we can start the attack when we input something, and continue the attack if isAttacking is true. Okay, let's see where the knocks are. That is this entire section. What the? Okay. I'll put those there, and then we need to talk about the test function. Mhm. 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 In a more complete system, test attack and the input would be in a different class as this is just a video going over the system. We're putting it here just so it's easier to work with. I don't have it even like scripted out, so okay. Mm, mm, mm. Test attack is defined here. Mm, in a full system, be in a different in an input management class. But for the video, we are and testing. We define it here. Okay. Test attack in a full system would be in an input management class, but for the video and testing, we define it here instead. I think that sentence is enough for that. Okay. Test attack in a full system would be in an input management class, but for the video and testing, we've defined it here instead. Test attack in a full system would be in an input management class, but for the video and testing, I've defined it here instead. Okay. Second one. Okay. Line up the audio. Yeah, these line up exactly. All right. Next, we would go on to the attack class. Okay. Okay. Attack. Mm, 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 Variables to know the attack's frame info with an array and the current and the active frame. Moving on to the attack, we define variables to know what frame or frame-based variables. To know we define our frame variables to know the active frame and the full set of frames and what the active frame is. Frames and the active frame. Okay. In our ready function, we just fill out the array. Wait, is attack seriously just one? Okay. We just fill out the array and make sure that it's only by frames. We just fill out the array, making sure they are indeed frames and not anything else. Frames and not anything else. Okay. Then we can define our reset attack function where we set active frame to 0 and will disable all the frames once we make a helper in frame in the frame class. Yep. We define our variables to know the full set of frames and the active frame in our array. Okay. We define our frames variables to know the full set of frames and the active frame. In our ready function, we just fill out the array, making sure they are frames and not anything else. Then we can define our reset attack function, where we set the active frames to 0, and we'll disable all the frames once we make a helper function in the frame class. Is that good? This is going to be like all of the audio, so... Moving on to the attack class, we define our frame variables just to know the full set of frames and what the active frame is. In our ready function, we just fill out the array, making sure that it's only filled with frames. Then we can define our reset attack function, where we set the active frames to 0, and we'll disable the active... Yeah. I feel like I'm saying the same thing like 6 times, and it's not good. The word frame is just used so many times. We define our variables to know the full set of frames. full set and the active frame. In the ready function, we just populate the array. With a type check. Then we can define reset attack. Where we set active frame to 0. Where we will disable all the frames and set the active frame to 0. But we still need a helper function from frame. Yes. Moving on to the attack class, we define our variables to know the full set and the active frame. In the ready function, we just fill out the array with a type check. Then we define the reset attack function, where we will disable all the frames and set the active frame to 0. But we still need a helper function from the frame class to fully finish this function. But we still need a helper function from the frame class to finish reset attack. Don't mention that we go one layer down. We do one layer down. The ready function, we look one layer down. In the ready function, we look one layer down, and we fill out the array with a type check. Alright, then this is the frame thing. I'm sure if these are okay. So that one's the ready function. That one's pointing at frame mini. Wait, what? Yeah, I see. Yeah, okay. And one more, which is the new function. Yep. Yep. All right. Frame. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right here. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh. Okay, in the frame one, so we can define our two variables. Two variables. Repeat this frame we will use later, and box shapes we can use right away. In the ready function, we need to go 2 layers down. In the ready function, we need to go 2 layers down. From frame, going down into the areas, and then grabbing their collision shapes. Use 2 layers down. 1 layer. Below, we have the hit and heart boxes. Then below that, we have the shapes. Mm-hmm. Once we verify they are in fact collision shapes, then store them in the array, and also disable them. Also have them disabled by default. Alright, and does that actually match up with like the images? We can add them to array and disable them. Then, okay. Then we can define our helper function set frame disabled to enable or disable this frame. Uh, the box.visible property is just so we can see it, so it hides itself when it's not being used to remove clutter. Or disable this frame. Right. Then we can go back to our attack class and use this helper function in reset attack. To disable all the frames. To enable disable this frame, then we can go back up to our attack. Then we can go back up to our attack. Loop through all of its frames and disable them when we reset attack. Reset attack. Okay. Okay, let's see if I can one-shot it. In the frame class, we define two variables, repeat this frame, which we'll use later on, and box shapes, which we can use right away. In the ready function, we need to go 2 layers down. 1 layer below, we have the hitbox and hurt boxes. Then below that, we have the collision shapes of those boxes. Once we verify that they are in fact collision shapes, we can store them in the array box shapes and have them disabled by default. Then we can define our helper function setFrameDisabled so that we can enable or disable this frame. We can then go back to our attack method. We can then go back up one layer to the attack through all of its frames, and then we can go back to attack class. We can then go back to our attack class, loop through all of its frames, and disable them when we want to reset the attack. Okay, put here. That seconds off. I don't say that it loops through all of the boxes by turning off and on all of the boxes. Um, mm, Once we verify they are in fact collision shapes, we can store them in an array, and we can have them disabled by default. Then we can define our helper function setFrameDisabled to enable or disable this frame by setting the boxes to enabled or disabled. Which sets the boxes to enabled or disabled. We can then define our helper function setFrameDisabled, which sets the boxes to enabled or disabled, effectively turning off or on the frame. Right. We can define our helper function setFrameDisabled, which sets the boxes to enabled or disabled, effectively turning them on or off for this frame. Effectively turning the frame on or off. We do that. Then we can define our helper function setFrameDisabled, which sets the boxes to enabled or disabled, effectively turning the frame on or off. Okay. Basically like that. Okay. So from the beginning. So that do this. Okay. Think that second's good? Also, these should be up. I should be grouping these. Wait, we're only like 3 minutes into a video? Oh my gosh, this is only 3 minutes? 3.5? Barely? Oh. Yeah. We're already done frame. Also, haven't done any quizzes yet. Yes. Okay. Ay. Hitbox is all one thing. It's 5. Almost 7 minutes, but like it's basically 5. Okay. Let me group these so they don't like go insane trying to figure out what's where or move things. And I shouldn't. I'll probably end stream. I need to write the script out for the hitbox before I can actually say anything. And then looking at that, so this, Um, wait, why did I even call those? That's actually important. So okay, so you're used for hit exceptions. You're used for also hit exceptions. Has hit multi-hit, or sorry, has hit hitbox mini, or sorry, has hit property. That's the signal, and the damage value is to represent the dice. So all of use in this. Okay, so okay. Uh, what's our uh, here we need to define a signal along as hit with our other variables like the hitbox data and some references to the player, to our own player and attack manager. Our other variables like okay, that's it. We're going to find a signal has hit. We also need to define the hitbox data. For example, damage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And some references to our own player and attack manager. Um, mhm. Which are 3 and 4 layers up. Mm-hmm. Then for the functions, we have okay, mhm, uh, which are 3 to 4 layers up. Uh, for example, damage. We need some references to our own player and attack manager, which are 3 or 4 layers up. So we declare them on ready. For the ready function, we connect the signal on area entered to our damage function. For the ready function, we can connect the signal on area entered to our damage function. This signal comes from extending area 2D. And for now, we can just print that the damage function was called before flex. The signal on area entered to our damage function, which this signal comes from extending area 2D, and for now we can just print the damage function. For now we can just print that the damages function was called. In the damage function, for now we can just print that the damage function was called. That it was called. Save that, save this. Okay, so here we need to define a signal has hit. We also need to define the hitbox data, for example, damage. We need some references. We need some references to our own player and attack manager, which are 3 and 4 layers up respectively. Are 3 and 4 layers up. For the ready function, we connect the signal on area entered to our damage function. The signal comes from extending area 2D. In the damage function, we can just print that it was called for now. Okay. Alright, we'll end it here. Thank you for watching me trying to make a video, which is just so much work. Okay. See you tomorrow. I opened a second thing in OBS. No, I want to close OBS. So